Hello there, my name's Claire and this is Stitch Hem Sew. Thank you so much for joining me today for another episode of Friday Sews. I really do appreciate everybody that comes back time and time again. So if you are a regular watcher or subscriber, thank you so much. And if you are new here today, you are very welcome and I hope you enjoy the video and you'll consider subscribing. So Friday Sews is just a way of us as vloggers of talking about things that we've been up to in the world of sewing, whether that be makes that we've got, plans that we've got, or just things that we may have bought, or just general sewing chit chat, but also a little bit of life thrown in as well. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today, so I hope you enjoy that, and I'll get started first of all on what I've been up to in terms of making this week. Now, last week, you will, if you've watched my video, I talked about the fact that I wanted to sew up a pattern that the lovely Adam from Adam Sews has created, which was the trio of pouches pattern. So this is the pattern, and after I mentioned that I was hoping to buy it this week, what should appear in my emails but the pattern? The lovely Adam had sent me the pattern for free, which was just so kind of him. He just said, here you go, have the pattern, sort of thing. No obligation to obviously talk about it or anything, but obviously I've already talked about the fact that I wanted to sew it up, so of course I'm going to talk about the fact that you know, he'd sent me this gorgeous pattern, so thank you, Adam. So that arrived in my inbox on Friday and I became quite twitchy about it in terms of I want to have a go at one of these. So you don't need a huge amount of fabric, especially for the small one, which is what I sewed up, and the idea is that you've got a front piece and a back piece, and you quilt the two pieces together with some foam in the middle. Now, like a fusible foam or a fusible fleece, and I didn't have any fusible fleece at that point, so I was thinking to myself, what have I got that's of similar sort of thickness to that? And I found a piece, a remnant, a little offcut of some quite thick sweatshirting fabric. I thought, well, I'll give it a go, see what happens. So I have made, as I say, the small pouch from that. So you can't obviously see that I've used a piece of sweatshirt fabric on the inside. The only obviously downside to that is it's not fusible, but it just meant I just had to sort of pin it in place. I went to use, I've got some 505 spray, but I bought it ages ago, and when I went to use it, it had all kind of gone a bit funny and wasn't usable anymore, so I just pinned it. So I'm not sure how well the quilting side of things is going to show up on this. So this is a needle cord, quite a fine needle cord fabric, and it's a very dark navy with white spots on, and then on the inside you can probably see the quilting a little bit better there. I've just used a sort of a fat quarter with this red fabric with the dots on. I didn't have any bias binding, but I did have some twill tape that was quite sort of thin in texture, and I thought that married really nicely with the inside fabric, so I've just used that instead of bias binding, and that seems to have worked out quite well. The only downside to that is it was a bit bulky at points and my sewing machine grumbled at me a little bit. So you bind the insides as well, where you obviously make the join in there, but other than that it's all really quite, well, it's neat anyway, it's neat inside. So I've definitely got some more plans to make some more of these, and I've already got some fabric cut out ready to quilt and to make a couple more of these. So thank you again, Adam. It was a really enjoyable little sew. I really enjoy making the odd sort of more crafty, what I call a crafty project rather than a garment sew, and I like to kind of intersperse them. I think that sort of thing makes great gifts, and yeah, it's just really enjoyable sometimes to be able to make something and that sort of thing, I can sort of sew up reasonably quickly, and you go from just pieces to a finished product in a very short space of time, which is quite nice, not to be working with great big pieces of fabric for an item of clothing. Sometimes it's nice to work with sort of smaller cuts of fabric. So yeah, really looking forward to sewing up a few more of those as well. Now, I haven't done a huge amount of sewing this week for one reason or another. My little one hasn't been very well. He had some really horrible virus. He was sick a number of times. He had raised temperature for a good number of days. Sleep was a little bit on the absent side. Sewing took a little bit of a backseat. I have done a little bit more sewing, and I'll show you those in a minute. I haven't mentioned what I'm wearing. I have got on a sagebrush top in this really gorgeous blue viscose with little flowers on, and I'm wearing a Harper cardigan in this navy cable knit, just to keep me a little bit cozy, because it's feeling a little bit more chilly today when I'm filming this. So in terms of what else I've been up to, it's my older son's birthday coming up this weekend, and I made him like a birthday crown using the Waves and Wild Crown and Glory pattern. I think I made it for his birthday last year, but when I made my younger son one for his birthday, a subsequent birthday after that, I'd actually added a number onto the front, which is like a detachable number, and I'd said to my older son that when it came around to his birthday I would do the same for him. So the crown I had already previously made using the Waves and Wild pattern, but what I've done is I've just put some Velcro on the back of this number so it's detachable, and obviously a little bit of Velcro on the crown, and therefore I can just, when it comes to the next birthday, I can whip this one off, quickly make a new one and pop that one on. So just a really cute little addition to a make that he has really enjoyed wearing on his birthday last year, so hopefully he will this year too. So in terms of garment sewing, I was talking about the fact that I wanted to sew up the Helen's Closet Gilbert shirt, and I was going to be using a really gorgeous fabric, this fabric here, and I have sewn most of the shirt. Now it's not quite finished. I'm yet to put the buttons on. You'll see that I've sort of put pins in where I think they should be. I haven't yet hemmed the sleeves. The sleeves have come out quite long for me, so they should be sort of, the pattern suggests that they should be here, but I think I probably need that essentially turned up another time, so I will cut a little bit off and hem those once I've tried it on. But what I thought I'd do is I'd leave it until I've done the buttons and the buttonholes, and then once I'm sort of, I can try it on properly done up, then I can decide what length I want the sleeves at. I was trying this on in the bedroom last night, and my husband came in and he said, oh well, it's beautiful fabric and everything, and it looks like you've made a really good job, but it just looks like you're wearing a man's Hawaiian shirt, and he didn't like it at all. So that was a bit of a downer. So I'm hoping with the right styling and once I'm actually properly wearing it and it's, you know, done up properly and everything, and I can, you know, maybe tuck it in or whatever, however I would just choose to style it, that he will like it, and more importantly, much more importantly in fact, that I will like it too. I was really enjoying it up until that point, so I'm sure I will. You know, he doesn't have to like everything I wear. That doesn't really bother me that much. This pattern, the Helen's Closet Gilbert, I think it's called the Gilbert top, but to me it's a shirt. The Helen's Closet patterns instructions are amongst the best in the business as far as I'm concerned. I haven't ever made one of her garment patterns where you have to pay for it. I've made a couple of her free patterns. She's done the Sam's apron pattern, I've made that. And there was something else that I made of hers as well. Was it a tote bag that has some other sort of detailing on it? I can't quite remember. But anyway, whether it's a free pattern or a pattern that you pay for, her instructions are sort of second to none in terms of really going through the steps. She seems to think about every single detail of it, which I just think is brilliant, particularly if you are new to sewing. You cannot go wrong with a Helen's Closet instructions as far as I'm concerned anyway. So yeah, that's my make for this week. Hopefully during the week, next week, I'll get to finish that off, pop the buttonholes and buttons on, hem the sleeves, and then I will go about seeing how I wear it. I guess it's a little bit more of a summery make, being that I've got short sleeves, but my thought with it was that I, would have a jacket, or I could layer it over a turtleneck or whatever. So yeah, I think hopefully this one will come together and be okay in the end. So those are the things that I've been making. I don't have an awful lot of time for sewing in this coming week, so I'm not quite sure what I'm going to get done other than doing that shirt. There is still the dreaded coat looming. I was saying to Marissa, the Umbrian Sewist, when we were talking over some messages earlier, I think it was yesterday, and she asked me whether I started the dreaded coat, and I said that at the weekend I'd had thought about cutting out the pieces, but my husband and I had had a few crosswords, and the last thing I wanted to do was to spend my time cutting out an item for him, particularly as it's one that is a very involved cut out session in terms of there's at least 16 pieces. And there is some pattern Tetris required to get it all on the fabric, and I was, with the fact that I was feeling super tired anyway from not sleeping very well because my little one was ill, I decided that day wasn't the day to cut that pattern out. So I think once I have finally made myself cut it out, in terms of the actual sew, it will be fine, because I have done the toile a couple of months ago, so I know kind of what I need to do within the pattern. It wasn't difficult to sew up at all. Obviously I've then got to contend with, I'm going to put some snaps and things on, and I've never done that before, so that's sort of in the back of my mind. But mainly it's just the cutting out process. It's not my favourite task in terms of sewing, and I'm definitely procrastinating with this one in terms of getting going on it, but at some point I will make myself do it, and then I'll be really pleased, because then I can just do the fun part, which is the actual sewing. So I also need to start thinking about the sewing challenge that I'm taking part in this month, which is Gift to November, which has been run by the lovely Alison from Sew Like Dotty and Adam from Adam Sews. And the idea is that you sew up your gifts potentially for Christmas, but it doesn't have to necessarily be for Christmas, for the holiday season, or it could be for birthdays, or a thank you gift or whatever. But the general principle behind the idea is that everybody kind of gets a little bit more ahead of the game, not leaving all their Christmas sewing until sort of the last minute in December. If they start in November, then hopefully they get ahead of themselves a little bit. And so they're doing a whole great big sort of vlogger tour, and my video is due to come out on the 19th of November. So I need to have a little think about what I'd like to sew for Christmas presents for that video, and start a little bit of planning. So I think, as I'm probably not going to be able to get as much sewing done this week as I would like, I certainly hopefully can put some plans on paper and decide what I want to do. And I'm very much enjoying the videos that have come out already. Alison's videos come out, Adam's videos come out, and I watched today Rachel from the French Seams, her video as well. And it's just great seeing what everyone's planning on sewing up for the holiday season. So that's on my agenda of stuff to do today as well. Other than that, I don't think I've got huge amounts more to tell you. My in terms of sewing up some of those pouches, which was Adam's pattern, I did get in contact with Adam because I asked him what fusible fleece he tends to go for, because Adam does an awful lot of bag making and things. If you haven't watched his channel, please do head over and watch, because as I've said many times before, the stuff he makes is absolutely brilliant, just amazing, and he just seems to be his talent is incredible. So yeah, head over and watch his channel. However, I messaged him to say, what type of fusible fleece do you tend to use, where do you tend to buy it from? Now Adam and I don't live too very far from each other, and we live maybe 15-20 minutes drive from each other, but we're still yet to meet in person. We keep talking about it, for one reason or another it hasn't quite happened, but we will make it happen, hopefully this side of Christmas. But he said to me, oh, I tend to buy it in bulk, I can you can buy some off me if you like. So that was just so kind of him. So I messaged him back and said, oh yes please, and we arranged how much I wanted and how much it would be, etc. And so obviously I sent him the money, and he delivered it to my house because he was coming this way for work, which I just thought was so kind. And at some point I will be in if he ever delivers me anything else, or we will go for coffee. Because it's crazy, isn't it? You meet up with all the people that live miles away, but not the one that basically lives on your doorstep. So yeah, Adam, at some point, if you're watching, let's do it. So that's it, folks. Another short and sweet Friday sews for you this week. I did think about not filming because the last few weeks I haven't had as much content to talk to you about, because the sewing hasn't necessarily been as much, and I haven't bought as many things because I bought so much stuff in October because it was my birthday and I went to the knitting and stitching show and things. But I didn't want to, you know, I've still had some things to show you and talk about, and I didn't want to not pop on and talk to you, because I would miss doing it and I miss talking to you in the comments, etc. So I really do hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, I'd love it if you give me a thumbs up. If you have got anything to comment, drop me a comment. I always try to get back to those as quickly as possible. If you haven't subscribed to my videos, I really would love it if you would consider subscribing. And if you do want to support my channel further at all, you can always look at my Ko-fi account and see whether you'd like to buy me a coffee. But by no means, nobody is obligated to do that in any way, shape or form. The fact that everybody watches and likes and comments and subscribes to my video really is helpful. And I know, you know, money is tight, and so there is absolutely no expectation of that, but the fact that people sort of like and comment really helps my channel. It helps it to grow. It helps YouTube to know that people are watching. So if you could bring yourself to click that like button and drop me a comment, even if it is just an emoji face, that would be great. Well folks, I will stop waffling on. I hope you have a brilliant weekend. I hope you managed to fit in some sewing, but until next time, take care. Happy sewing. Bye bye.